The great chamber was silent. 47 species had sent their leaders to this meeting, and all of them sat in their seats without making a sound. The room was round and made of white stone that glowed with soft blue light. In the center stood High Arbiter Veilthus, a creature that looked like a giant insect with 6 arms and eyes that never blinked. "We have a problem," Veilthus said. His voice was calm, but everyone could hear the worry in it. "The humans have changed." On the floating screens around the chamber, images of Earth appeared. It was a small blue planet with white clouds and green lands. For 300 years, the Galactic Council had watched this world from far away. They had put humans in their records as a young species that was not ready for contact. Humans had no ships that could travel between stars. They fought wars among themselves. They were not a threat to anyone, but something had happened. 6 months ago, our scout ships stopped receiving signals from Earth, Veilthus continued. Their satellites disappeared. Their radio messages went quiet. We sent a ship to investigate. He paused and looked around the room. That ship never came back. Whispers spread through the chamber. The representative from the Krell Empire, a large creature with gray skin and 4 eyes, stood up from his seat. "One missing ship means nothing," he said. "Perhaps it had engine problems. Perhaps the crew made a mistake." "We sent 3 more ships," Veilthus replied. None of them returned. "But before the last one was destroyed, it sent us this." The screens changed. Now they showed something that made everyone in the room feel cold. Earth was surrounded by a ring of metal and light. Thousands of weapons platforms floated in orbit. Ships of unknown design moved between them. And on the surface of the moon, there were structures that had not been there before. Huge structures, weapons. "The humans have built a defense system," Veilthus said. "Our scientists have studied the images. They say this technology is more advanced than anything we have ever seen. We do not know how the humans created it. We do not know where they got the knowledge. But we know one thing for certain." He let his words hang in the air. "If we do not act now, the humans will spread beyond their planet. And when they do, they will be a danger to all of us." The chamber erupted in noise. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years now agreed on one thing. Earth had to be stopped. Fleet Commander Drixon stood up from his seat in the military section. He was a reptilian creature with green scales and sharp teeth. His eyes were yellow and they showed no fear. In his long career, he had conquered 12 planets and never lost a single battle. He was the greatest military mind the Council had ever produced. "Give me the fleet," Drixon said. "I will handle the humans. How many ships do you need?" asked a council member. Drixon smiled. It was not a nice smile. "All of them. I want every warship the Council can spare. I want to show these humans what happens when you threaten the galaxy." The vote was quick. All 47 species agreed. They would send 9,700 warships to Earth. It was the largest invasion force in the history of the galaxy. Enough firepower to destroy 100 planets. Drixon looked at the image of Earth on the screen. Such a small world. Such weak creatures. This would be easy. On the other side of the galaxy, deep beneath the mountains of Korea, Admiral Park Do-yeon stood in a room filled with screens and computers. He was a tall man with gray hair and a face that showed many years of hard work. Around him, hundreds of officers sat at their stations, watching data flow across their screens. "Sir," said Colonel Yoon-Jasu, a woman with short black hair and sharp eyes, "our deep space sensors have detected movement. A large fleet is forming near the Council's main station." Park nodded slowly. He had expected this. "How many ships?" he asked. Jasu checked her screen. Her face became pale. 9,700, sir. They are preparing for hyperspace jump. Destination is our solar system? The room became very quiet. Every officer stopped what they were doing and looked at the admiral. 9,700 ships. It was a number that should have made anyone feel hopeless, but Admiral Park did not look worried. Instead, he smiled. "Good," he said. "They are bringing everything. That means after we defeat them, they will have nothing left. Sir, Jisu said carefully, are you sure we can win this? Our fleet is much smaller than theirs. Park turned to face his officers. These men and women had trained their whole lives for this moment. They had built weapons in secret. They had prepared defenses that the galaxy could not imagine. They had done all of this because they knew someday someone would come to take their world. 300 years ago, Park said, our ancestors looked up at the stars and asked a question. Are we alone? Now we know the answer. We are not alone. And the beings out there do not want to be our friends. They want to make us their slaves. He walked to the main screen and looked at the image of the alien fleet. But we are humans. We do not surrender. We do not give up. We fight. And we win. He pressed a button on his console. All stations, this is Admiral Park. Begin Operation Iron Sky. The enemy is coming. Let us show them what Earth can do. Across the planet, lights turned on in hidden bases. Weapons powered up. Soldiers moved to their positions. And in orbit, the defense grid came alive, ready to welcome the invaders. The war for Earth was about to begin. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Jupiter, and the sight was terrifying. 9,700 warships appeared in the darkness of space like angry stars. Each ship was massive, covered in weapons and armor. Together, they stretched across millions of kilometers in a perfect formation that the Council called the Tide of Iron. Commander Drixon stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. Through the large windows, he could see his fleet spreading out around him. This was the moment he had waited for. The moment he would add another world to the Council's empire. Begin scanning the area, he ordered. Find me the human colonies on Jupiter's moons. His officers worked quickly. But as the data came in, confusion spread across their faces. Commander, said his second officer, the colonies are empty. The humans have left. Drixon's eyes narrowed. What do you mean, empty? All structures are abandoned. No life signs? No ships. It appears they evacuated everything weeks ago. This was unexpected. Drixon had planned to capture those colonies first. He wanted prisoners. He wanted to learn about human weaknesses. But if the colonies were empty, it meant one thing. The humans knew they were coming. It does not matter, Drixon said, hiding his concern. We continue toward Earth. The humans have nowhere to run. The fleet moved forward. They passed Jupiter and its many moons. They moved past the asteroid belt. Mars grew larger on their screens, a red ball of rock and dust, and then the first ship exploded. We are under attack, shouted an officer on the screens. Drixon could see what was happening. Thousands of small platforms had appeared from nowhere. They were hidden among the asteroids, covered in material that blocked sensors. Each platform was simple, just a metal box with a weapon attached. But those weapons fired beams of energy that cut through ship armor like paper. All ships return fire. Drixon commanded. The fleet responded. Lasers and missiles flew toward the platforms. Explosions lit up the darkness of space. But for every platform they destroyed, 3 more attacked. The small machines did not care about their own survival. They flew directly at the fleet, firing until they were destroyed. In 20 minutes, 400 ships were gone. Finally, the last platform was destroyed. Drixon looked at the damage reports and felt something he had not felt in many years, doubt. What were those things? He asked. Unknown design, Commander. The weapons used an energy pattern we have never encountered. And the platforms had no crew. They were controlled by computers. Drixon gripped the edge of his command chair. 400 ships lost to unmanned machines. This was not how the battle was supposed to go, but he could not turn back now. The Council was watching. His honor was at stake. And besides, he still had over 9,000 ships. Surely that was enough to crush one small planet. Continue the advance, he ordered. All ships increase alert status. Far away on Earth, in a hidden base beneath the city of Seoul, Lieutenant Han Min-jae watched the battle on his screens. He was a young man with thick glasses and messy hair. He did not look like a soldier. He looked like someone who spent too much time with computers. which was exactly what he was. The weapons platforms were his design. He had spent 5 years building them, programming them, placing them in secret locations throughout the solar system. And now he watched as they did their job. 400 enemy ships destroyed, he reported to Admiral Park through the communication system. All platforms in Sector 7 are now offline. Excellent work, Lieutenant, Park replied. But this was only the first test. The real battle is still ahead. Min-jae nodded even though Park could not see him. He knew this was true. The platforms were designed to slow the enemy down, to make them nervous. The real defenses were closer to Earth. He looked at a photograph on his desk. It showed him standing next to a woman in a military uniform. She was taller than him, with a confident smile and the same eyes as his. His sister, Captain Han Sujin. Sujin commanded one of the orbital defense stations that circled Earth. She had called him last night, before communications went into lockdown mode. Whatever happens, little brother, she had said, I want you to know I am proud of you. Your machines will save many lives today. Min-jae had not known what to say. He was good with computers, not words. Just come back alive, he had finally answered. Mother will be angry if you do not. Sujin had laughed. I will do my best. Now, watching the alien fleet continue toward Earth, Min-jae wondered if he would ever see his sister again. The enemy had lost 400 ships, but they still had thousands more. It would take everything humanity had to stop them. On the flagship Eternal Conquest, Drixon received reports from his damaged ships. Many could be repaired. Many more could not. He ordered the worst damaged vessels to fall back while the rest of the fleet pushed forward. Earth was now visible on long-range sensors. A small blue dot against the blackness of space. So close now. Soon this world would belong to the Council. Soon these troublesome humans would learn their place. Commander, said an officer, we are detecting something strange near Earth's moon. What is it? The moon itself, sir. It appears to be ... moving. Drixon stared at his screen. That was impossible. Moons did not move. Moons were giant rocks that floated in space. They did not have engines. They could not change position, but as he watched, he saw it was true. Earth's moon was slowly turning, revealing its dark side to the approaching fleet. And on that dark side there was something massive. Something that glowed with terrible energy. For the first time in his life, Drixon felt fear. What is that thing? He whispered. He would soon find out. The moon turned slowly in the darkness of space, and the alien fleet watched in horror. On the dark side of Earth's ancient satellite, a weapon had been hidden for decades. It was a particle accelerator built into the rock itself, a tube that stretched for hundreds of kilometers across the lunar surface. At its center was a chamber that glowed with blue fire, building power that no living thing should possess. The humans called it the Hammer of Earth. Commander. Drixon barely had time to give an order before the weapon fired. A beam of pure energy shot across space faster than light itself. It hit the center of the fleet formation and simply erased everything it touched. Ships did not explode. They did not burn. They just stopped existing. 800 ships gone in 1 second. Scatter! Drixon screamed. Break formation, move! The perfect tide of iron formation fell apart as ships flew in every direction. Captains panicked. Crews screamed. The discipline of 1,000 years of military training disappeared in an instant. The hammer fired again. Another beam. Another 600 ships vanished. Drixon's mind raced. They could not fight this weapon from a distance. It was too powerful, too accurate. There was only one option left. All ships charge toward Earth, he commanded. Get close to the planet. They cannot fire that weapon if we are near their world. It was a desperate plan, but it was the only plan. The fleet surged forward, trying to get inside the weapon's range before it could fire again. Ships pushed their engines to maximum power. Some exploded from the stress. Others fell behind and were destroyed by the lunar weapon, but many made it through. The fleet reached Earth orbit, and for a moment Drixon felt hope. They were too close now. The humans would not risk destroying their own planet. The battle could be fought on equal terms. Then the sky around Earth came alive. From hidden bases across the planet's surface, millions of small craft launched into space. They were tiny things, no bigger than a ground vehicle. Each one had simple weapons and a basic engine, and each one was controlled by an artificial mind that knew only one purpose: kill the invaders. Die doing it. The humans called them ghost swarms. They came from everywhere at once. From the mountains of Asia, from the deserts of Africa, from the frozen lands of the north and south. Millions of machines rising into the darkness like angry insects, filling space with their numbers. The alien fleet had never faced anything like this. Fire at will, Drixon ordered. Destroy those things. His ships opened fire with every weapon they had. Lasers cut through the swarm. Missiles exploded in bright flowers of light. Thousands of the small craft were destroyed every minute, but there were always more. Always more. The ghost swarms crashed into the fleet like waves against rocks. They did not try to dodge or retreat. They flew straight at enemy ships and detonated against their hulls. Each explosion was small, but together they tore holes in armor, destroyed weapon systems, killed crew members, and while the fleet fought the swarms, something else appeared. Human fighters. Commander Kongunji sat in the cockpit of her ship, watching the battle unfold before her. She was a woman in her 30s with calm eyes and steady hands. On her helmet was painted a small symbol, a skull with wings. Her pilots called her Reaper, and today she would earn that name. All squadrons, this is Reaper, she said into her radio. Follow my lead. Target the enemy command ships. Let the ghosts handle the rest. Her fighter shot forward, followed by 200 others. They were not like the ghost swarms. These ships had human pilots inside them. Men and women who had trained for years for this moment. They flew with skill and courage. Weaving through the chaos of battle like dancers, Yunji found her first target, a large battleship that was trying to destroy a group of ghost swarms. She flew under its belly, avoiding its weapons, and fired her missiles at its engine section. The battleship shuddered and began to drift. One down, she said. Find the next. Her squadron moved through the battle like death itself. They found enemy ships and killed them, one by one, then 10 by 10. The alien crews had never fought humans before. They did not understand how anyone could fly with such perfect coordination, such fearless aggression. On the surface of Earth, Admiral Park watched the battle from his command center. The screens showed chaos, fire, death, but they also showed victory. Enemy losses have reached 4,000 ships, Colonel Jasu reported. Our ghost swarms are at 60% capacity. Fighter squadrons are holding strong. Park nodded. It was working. Years of planning, of building, of waiting. It was all working. Tell Commander Kang to target their flagship, he ordered. End this. High above Earth, Yunji received the order. She looked at her tactical screen and found the enemy flagship, the Eternal Conquest. It was larger than the others, covered in heavy armor and surrounded by escort ships. Reaper to all units, she said. New target. The big one. Let us finish this fight. Her squadron turned toward the flagship. Ghost swarms followed them, creating a path through the enemy escorts. Alien ships tried to stop them, but the humans were too fast. Too skilled. On the Eternal Conquest, Drixon watched his fleet dying around him. Half his ships were gone. The ghost swarms were everywhere. Human fighters cut through his defenses like they were nothing. Commander, said his officer, we should retreat. The battle is lost. Drixon wanted to argue. He wanted to fight. But he was a professional soldier and he knew the truth. This was not a battle anymore. This was a slaughter. Signal all ships, he said quietly. Full retreat. Get out of the system. But as he gave the order, alarms screamed across his bridge. A human fighter was approaching, flying directly at the flagship. It was damaged, trailing smoke, but it did not change course. Drixon saw the pilot's face on his screen for just a moment. A young man with determined eyes. Sergeant Beek Jinho, he did not look afraid. He looked proud. The fighter hit the flagship's reactor core and everything turned to white light. When the battle ended, only 18 alien ships remained. They fled into hyperspace, carrying the survivors back to Council space. Behind them, Earth orbit was filled with wreckage. The remains of 9,000 ships floated in the darkness, a graveyard that would orbit the blue planet for centuries. Humanity had won, but the cost was terrible. 12,000 pilots had died. 3 orbital stations were destroyed. The ghost swarms were nearly gone, and Captain Han Soo-jin would not be coming home. The 18 ships moved slowly through the darkness between stars. Their engines were damaged. Their crews were broken. They had entered Earth's system as conquerors. They were leaving as survivors. Sub-Commander Yelenik stood on the bridge of the burning star, now the last command ship of the invasion fleet. She was young for her position, with blue skin and large silver eyes that showed every emotion she felt. Right now, those eyes showed pain and confusion. Commander Drixon was dead. His flagship had been destroyed by a single human pilot who flew his damaged fighter into the reactor core. That image played in her mind again and again. A tiny ship attacking a massive battleship. One life traded for thousands. What kind of creatures did such things? Around her, the bridge crew worked in silence. Nobody spoke unless they had to. The trauma of what they had experienced was too fresh, too raw. They had watched 9,000 ships die. They had seen weapons that should not exist. They had fought an enemy that refused to surrender even when facing certain death. "Sub-Commander," said her navigation officer, "we will reach Council space in 7 days. Our hyperdrives cannot go any faster." Yelenik nodded slowly. 7 days? 7 days to think about what had happened. 7 days to prepare a report that would shake the entire galaxy. She walked to her private quarters and sat in front of her personal screen. The recorded footage from the battle waited for her, hundreds of hours of death and destruction. She had watched it many times already, trying to understand how everything went so wrong. The humans had known they were coming. That was the first surprise. Their colonies were evacuated. Their defenses were ready. The weapons platforms in the asteroid belt had cost the fleet 400 ships before they even reached Earth. Then came the moon weapon. Yelenik still could not believe what she had seen. A particle accelerator built into a moon. Who thinks of such things? Who has the ambition, the madness, to turn a celestial body into a gun? And the ghost swarms. Millions of unmanned craft, each one willing to die to take an enemy ship with it. The Council had artificial intelligences too, but they were careful, programmed for self-preservation. Human machines had no such limits. They attacked without hesitation, without fear. But what disturbed Yelenik most was not the technology. It was the humans themselves. She played a recording from the battle. It showed a human fighter pilot, call sign Reaper, leading an attack on a battleship. The pilot flew with impossible skill, dodging weapons fire that should have destroyed her 10 times over. Her voice came through the intercepted communications, calm and steady, even in the middle of chaos. "Stay on target. Watch your wings. 3 more seconds to firing position." How could anyone be so calm while facing death? How could anyone fly into such danger without hesitation? Another recording showed the final moments of Drixon's flagship. The human pilot, Sergeant Beek Jinho, was wounded. His fighter was falling apart around him. He had every reason to retreat to save his own life. Instead, he accelerated toward the enemy ship and crashed into it. Yelenik had studied many species in her career. She thought she understood how living creatures behaved. All beings wanted to survive. All beings feared death. It was the most basic instinct in the universe, but humans were different. They could choose to die if they believed the cause was worth it. They could push past their survival instincts through pure willpower. This was not just dangerous. This was terrifying. She began writing her report to the Council. It would be the most important document of her life, far away. On Earth, the celebrations were quiet. People gathered in the streets of every city, but there was no cheering. No parades. They had won an impossible victory, but too many had died for it to feel like success. The names of the fallen were read on every broadcast channel. 12,000 pilots. 30,000 soldiers. Countless civilians who died when orbital stations fell from the sky. In Seoul, the rain fell softly on a memorial garden. Thousands of small stones stood in neat rows, each one carrying a name. Lieutenant Han Min-jae walked among them slowly, searching for one stone in particular. He found it near the center. Captain Han Soo-jin. Beloved daughter and sister. She gave her life for Earth. Min-jae stood there for a long time. The rain soaked his clothes, but he did not notice. He thought about all the things he had never told his sister. All the conversations they would never have. All the years they would never share. She had died when her orbital station was destroyed. 3 enemy battlecruisers had attacked it at once, trying to create a gap in Earth's defenses. Soo-jin had ordered her crew to evacuate while she stayed behind to keep the station's weapons firing. She held her position until the very end. Her final transmission was recorded. Min-jae had listened to it many times. This is Station 7, evacuating all personnel. I will keep the guns running as long as I can. Tell my brother. Tell him I was proud to fight beside him. Even if we were on different sides of the planet. She had laughed then, a small laugh that broke Min-jae's heart every time he heard it. Give them hell, little brother. Make sure they never come back. He had given them hell. His weapons platforms had destroyed hundreds of enemy ships. But it did not feel like enough. Nothing would ever feel like enough. Admiral Park Do-yeon stood on the steps of the United Nations building and addressed the world. The cameras showed his face to every screen on the planet. Behind him, holographic displays showed images of Earth's orbital shipyards where new ships were already being built. We have won a great victory, Park said. But we must not forget what it cost us. 12,000 brave men and women gave their lives to defend our world. They were our sons and daughters, our brothers and sisters, our friends. We will honor their sacrifice by never forgetting them. He paused and looked directly into the cameras. But we must also look forward. The Galactic Council sent their fleet to conquer us. They failed. They will try again. And when they do, we will not be waiting here for them. The images behind him changed, showing designs for warships larger than anything humans had built before. The stars belong to everyone, including us. We are no longer a species confined to one planet. We are humanity. We are survivors. And we are coming. In the memorial garden, Min-jae heard the speech through his phone. He looked up at the gray sky and wondered what his sister would think. She would probably tell him to stop standing in the rain. Like an idiot, he smiled sadly and wiped the water from his face. We won. Soo-jin, he whispered. I hope it was worth it. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Representatives from 47 species sat in their seats, staring at the young officer who stood before them. Sub-Commander Yelenix looked small in the center of the great room, but her voice did not shake as she spoke. 9,700 ships, she said. That is what we sent to Earth. 18 came back. The silence grew heavier. Some of the representatives looked away. Others closed their eyes. A few simply sat frozen, unable to process what they were hearing. I have brought recordings of the battle, Yelenix continued. I believe you must see them to understand what we are facing. She activated the holographic display. And the chamber filled with images of death. The representatives watched the weapons. Platforms tear through the first wave of ships. They saw the moon turn and reveal its terrible weapon. They witnessed the ghost swarms descend upon the fleet like a storm of metal and fire. And they watched human pilots fly with skill and courage that seemed impossible. When the recordings ended, Yelenix spoke again. We made a mistake, she said. We looked at Earth and saw a primitive world. We saw creatures with short lives and fragile bodies. We thought they would be easy to conquer. She shook her head slowly. We were wrong. The humans knew we were watching them. They knew that someday someone would come to take their world. So they prepared? For 300 years, they built weapons in secret. They trained soldiers. They created machines that could think and fight without fear. High Arbiter Veilthus leaned forward in his seat. His insect eyes showed something that might have been fear. "How is this possible?" he asked. "They were supposed to be a young species. They should not have technology like this." "I do not know how they did it," Yalanx admitted. "But I know what I saw. I saw human pilots fly directly into our ships, sacrificing themselves to destroy us. I saw their machines fight until they were nothing but broken metal. I saw a species that would rather die than surrender." She paused and looked around the chamber. "That is what makes them dangerous. Not their weapons. Not their technology. Their will. They fight like creatures who have nothing to lose. They die like creatures who believe death is worth the price." The chamber erupted in noise. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded a second invasion with even more ships. Others called for negotiations. A few suggested that the Council should evacuate all systems within 100 light-years of Earth. Then a new voice silenced them. "Oh, we have received a message from Earth." The voice came from the communication officer at the edge of the chamber. Everyone turned to look at her. "A hyperspace drone arrived at our border station 1 hour ago," the officer continued. "It contains a transmission addressed to the entire council." "Play it," Veilthus ordered. The holographic display changed. A human woman appeared, standing in a room filled with flags and military symbols. She wore a simple gray uniform with stars on her shoulders. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with quiet fire. "I am General Troy Hanna," she said, "Supreme Commander of the Terran Sovereignty Military Forces. This message is for every species in the Galactic Council." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You sent 9,700 ships to Earth. 18 came back. I want you to remember that number. Remember what one planet did to your fleet. Remember the ships that will never return. Remember the soldiers who will never see their homes again." General Troy stepped closer to the camera. "Now imagine what we will do when we come for you." Gasps filled the chamber. Representatives looked at each other in shock. "You had 300 years to contact us peacefully," General Troy continued. "Instead, you watched us from the darkness. You judged us. You decided we were not worthy of your respect. And when you finally came to visit, you brought weapons instead of words." Her voice grew harder. "That was your choice. Now you will live with the consequences." She held up a data tablet. "You have 1 standard year to send diplomatic envoys to Earth. We are willing to talk. We are willing to negotiate. We would prefer peace over war." Her eyes narrowed. "But if you choose war instead, know this. We will not stop at defending ourselves. We will not wait for you to attack again. We are humanity. We do not forget. We do not forgive. And we are no longer confined to one world." She lowered the tablet. "The stars belong to everyone. That includes us. Choose wisely." The transmission ended. For a long moment, nobody in the chamber moved. Then slowly the debate began. But it was different now. The voices that called for war were quieter. The voices that called for peace were louder. Everyone had seen what humans could do. Nobody wanted to learn what else they were capable of. 6 months later, the first Council diplomatic ship arrived at Earth. It was a small vessel, unarmed, carrying representatives from 12 species. They dropped out of hyperspace near the moon and immediately saw that things had changed. Earth was surrounded by ships now. Not the tiny fighters that had destroyed the invasion fleet, but real warships. Battleships and carriers and destroyers, all built in the months since the battle. The orbital shipyards worked day and night, producing more vessels every week. And behind the ships, hanging in space like a warning, were the remains of the alien fleet. The humans had not cleaned up the wreckage. They had left it there deliberately. A monument to their victory. A reminder of what happened to those who attacked. Earth, the diplomatic vessel landed at a spaceport in Sol. The alien representatives stepped out onto human soil for the first time in History. Waiting for them was a man in a formal suit. He was tall, with a kind face and eyes that had seen too much. His left arm was artificial, made of metal and circuits, replacing the limb he had lost in the battle. "Welcome to Earth," said Ambassador Li Taeyong. "I hope your journey was comfortable." The lead alien representative, a creature with gray skin and nervous eyes, looked around at the humans watching them. "Your defenses are impressive," the alien said. "We did not expect such strength." Ambassador Li smiled. It was not a threatening smile, but it was not entirely friendly either. "We have learned that the universe is a dangerous place," he said. "We have decided to be dangerous too." He gestured toward a waiting vehicle. "But we would rather be friends than enemies. Come, we have much to discuss." The representatives followed him, walking past crowds of humans who watched in silence. Some of those faces showed anger. Some showed curiosity. Many showed fear. But all of them showed determination. Above the spaceport, in the clear blue sky, Earth's new fleet moved slowly past. A reminder that humanity was not weak anymore. A promise that the universe would never again see them as prey. The stars belonged to everyone, and humanity was ready to claim their share.